As we tend to do each and every week, we use all manner of gizmos and technology to speak to a number of special guests, whether they be this side of the world or the other side of the world, or in some other part of Australia. And right now we use Zoom to catch up with Julie Demsey. Julie, how are you?
I'm very well, George. Thanks so much for having me today.
I was going to say you're actually buoyant. That's the truth of the matter, because you've released a book. It's called Found, but give me the next bit of the title.
The subtitle is Swiping Right on Me to Find Love.
Now, where in heaven's name did you decide to run up with a book that's probably the most perfect book at the right time about the hottest topic in the world, and that's finding love?
Yep, it is. And it's actually about starting with finding love in yourself and then finding love with others. I started actually looking at writing this book over a decade ago, but it wasn't until about 2 years ago I really found my why behind why I wanted to get this out there. And it was because so many people are struggling through their dating experiences.
Now, you did this probably right after your divorce. You probably thought to yourself, I better get out and about again after a couple of years of not so much soul searching, but getting on with business, which is what you have done for a long, long time. You're a very successful and busy businesswoman, and that's why I'm fascinated to think that you've got this book out there. What's the feedback been like? Because no sooner did you launch it, but it's gone straight to the top selling list.
It has. It within the first 2 weeks became a #1 hot new release on Amazon. I'm very excited about that. And the feedback's been phenomenal. You know, George, I thought it was mostly going to be single people writing this book, or not writing it. I wrote it. I am single, but reading it. And there's a lot of people who are married and have been in long-term relationships who are finding a lot of value.
Well, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, because there are a lot of people, and especially through COVID, who would have had to spend an awful lot more time than they imagined with their partners. And we shouldn't laugh, because there have been a number of divorces and separations, because for some people it's been infinitely too taxing. And you're right, it's a terrific opportunity to read and discover about yourself. But I ask you a simple question. I think one of the greatest challenges in life is for all of us to be honest with one another. And I mean honest with ourselves. When you look in the mirror, what do you see? When I look in the mirror, depending on what time of day it is, I see a different person. Do you know what I mean? The one before it and I'm shaven, the one after I'm shaven, the one that's ready to go out, the one that's dressed. So we have so many different parts of ourselves. Which parts should we put on show?
We should put the real parts on show. And that's part of the problem with online dating, is you can hide behind your phone. People forget, though, when they create, and this is the same with any kind of social media, but especially with dating, when you create this false persona, you're going to meet. So if you're showing pictures that are 10 years old, somebody's going to find that out when they meet you. If you're talking about things that are interests, because you think that's going to attract the right person, if you get going in a relationship, you're going to find out that's not the case. But the biggest problem I see is there's so much dishonesty in terms of what people are looking for, what they say they're looking for, and what they really are. And if we could just really all be open and honest about that, we'd be in a much better place.
Oh, well, look, we hear terrible stories about relationships and about people, about families and how they struggle to be. We've even got a royal family that's currently struggling and has been struggling for years. And it's the old generational questions. As each generation comes along, it requires a different take, a different perspective, a different bit of compromise, doesn't it? And everything we do in life is about compromise. When we have to work in an office environment, we have to learn to live with our staff or with our colleagues, and that's not always easy. Sometimes it's much easier than others. But coming back to the book and coming back to the discoveries, it's taken you a decade. What were the gems that you've dropped in? Give us 1 or 2 gems that have actually resonated. Because I tell you what, I have some very good friends of mine who've also, like you, had an epiphany, and they've come up with a bespoke, wait for this, a confidential agency. That is a members club, and you have to pay to join. And what they do is they are using the best techniques that they have used for the better part of the last 30 years to identify the best talent, businessmen and women, to place in different jobs. So we're talking about executive search specialists. And now because of the pivot and the COVID, they've decided to use all these skills to help people that they care about or that join them in discovering the people that best complement them. And it's all about confidentiality. It's all about, for those people who are time poor, businessmen and women who are getting on and having to get on with life, don't have the time to trawl or to look through or to swipe anywhere. And to have an outside agency, for example, to come in and actually do the hardest thing, look at them and decide who they really are and which is the best one of them to put up and show others. That's, as you touched on, that's the hardest thing, isn't it? That's a real coming to Jesus moment with yourself. No, that's who I am, and that's what is the best person. What was the hardest one for you, and the one that resonates in the book with most of the readers?
Well, George, first of all, you speak of confidentiality, and my name is the only name in this book. Everybody else has fun little names. What's resonating most with people for some reason is somebody named Hair Vest. So you have to get the book to read that story. But in terms of what's resonating the most is where I start the book, talking about when I was a young girl. And I wasn't worried about if I liked a boy because I was so worried about if they liked me, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the wrong question to be asking. Do they like me? And somehow nobody taught me to think that way, and nobody taught me to think differently. But that stuck with me for decades. And that's what's resonating with people, that they realize they were so worried about other people and if they liked them. And we need to shift away from that.
Isn't it amazing when you go to a party and you get into a situation, you're talking to different people, and depending, I suppose, on how well you know them or how convivial the moment is, much more of you is on show than you imagined when you first walked into the room. And I suppose at the end of it, that's really the secret. What you reveal is you must reveal the best of you, but you've got to be true to yourself in order to do that, haven't you? So it's the catch-22. Catch-22. Tell me something. Did you have any horror stories that you also offered up in the book? Does the book also give us, some tidbits and scars from the past, or is it just plain sailing?
Unfortunately, there are some not so pleasant experiences, and pretty much everybody I've spoken to has gone through some of those. But there's also some tips in the book in terms of how to avoid those things, and some really healthy reminders too in terms of mindset, and reminding people that somebody else's bad behavior isn't your problem. Yeah,
good advice. Very good advice. Julie Demsey has got a brand new book. The book is called Found, and give me the sub.
Swiping right on me to find love.
Swiping right on me to find love. If you want to get away from the apps, if you want to get away from the online sites, check out Julie Demsey's book, and not only will it be a great read, but a great insight. It's available through all good bookstores and Amazon, is it?
Yep, it's easiest to find on Amazon, but any online bookstore, both paperback and digital. So,
Julie Demsey, before I let you go, what's next? Is there a second chapter or another book in this particular realm or this particular subject?
George, I actually talk about that at the end of the book, that I'm keeping it a little bit open because so many people are really involved in this topic, and I want to see what the feedback is and see which direction I take it in.
I like that very much. Julie Demsey, thank you very much for joining us. As always, an insight into so many different parts of us, and this is part of your life experience. You've been, a businesswoman, and you've shaped and helped so many other businessmen and women get on with their lives. And we thank you once again for giving us a glimpse into a part that we didn't know that you were doing. This book is called Found, and you can find it at Amazon. Julie Demsey is the author. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, George. Such a pleasure.